Alright, just make sure that works. Alright. Am I good now?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you know that the best baseball player of all time isn't even in the Major League Hall of Fame? Barry Bonds played 3,000 career games, hit over 750 home runs, and was walked over 2,500 times, which is more than anybody else in the whole league. And by the end of my speech, everyone will understand the history and the consequences that players get from taking steroids. This is relevant because steroids do not only impact players, it affects the culture and the young fans of the league. Hi, I'm Linus Jordan, and as someone who watches a lot of baseball and sports in general, steroids affect the game a lot and give players unfair advantages. And I've always found it fascinating how some of the best athletes in the world who have already great careers decide to take steroids and they ruin their careers. And like Barry Bonds, will never make it to the Hall of Fame. So for my first point, steroids give players unfair advantages. And another word for PEDs also stands for steroids, performance enhancing drugs. And that's how they refer to it. And it's used by players to get bigger, faster, and stronger because all athletes want that little edge over their competitors because athletes like to compete and they don't want to fall behind their competition and get passed by others. And so in this picture, this was Barry Bonds at the beginning of his career. I mean, he's a fit guy, had a little bit of muscle, and then you look here and you see this beast. I mean, 750 home runs. In an article written by Hassan bin Usman in 2015 called Knowledge, Awareness, and Practices of Harmful Effects of Anabolic Steroids, it says, bodybuilders go for the easy way out by indulging in steroid use. The use of steroids, only if combined with proper training and diet, can increase muscular size. I found that interesting because it kind of focused that only with proper training and diet, which I agree with because the steroids itself aren't going to make you a better player, but all the work that you put in will. And you still have to hit the ball, you still have to run, you still have to catch and throw and everything, and you can't just get better at that by taking steroids. My next point is the consequences. So some consequences are you'll face a suspension and you won't get paid. In an article written by Bleacher Report from 2018, it says 50 games for the first-time offenders, 100 games for the second-time offenders, and a permanent ban for three-time offenders. 3 strikes and you're out. So the first time that you get caught, you'll miss 50 games and you'll miss 50 days of pay from your team and the league. And if you get caught twice, then you miss 100 games. And if you get caught 3 times, then your career's over. There's no coming back from that. In an article called Methods for Trending Success Metrics to Account for Steroids, written by A.M. Peterson, etc., from December 10th, 2010, published by the European Physical Journal B, it says, how should the Hall of Fame deal with athletes from the steroid era, from the 90s to the 2000s, when they become eligible for a Hall of Fame introduction? The Mitchell report revealed that more than 5% of the players in 2003 were using PEDs. Hence, it is right to celebrate the accomplishments of players guilty for using PEDs than accomplishments for the players who were almost as good, but not as good, and not guilty. Next, I'll talk about why players use them. And most players use them because they're either getting old or they feel that they aren't good enough, like they're too small and too slow, that somebody's going to replace them at their position, so they want to get their advantage back and revamp their career. And next, I'll show you how the steroids affect your muscles.
Steroids work by mimicking the effects of the naturally produced testosterone, and they have an anabolic effect, or in other words, promote anabolism, which is a building process. Maybe you've heard people talk about and compare anabolism versus catabolism, not cannibalism, catabolism. But catabolism is the breakdown of complex molecules, whereas anabolism is the building up of complex molecules. And in the case of steroids, they have an anabolic effect by turning on certain genes within the muscle fibers that increase protein synthesis, thereby causing the muscle fibers to utilize amino acids to build more proteins. And this will enhance overall muscle growth and even potentially enhance physical performance. And users of anabolic steroids often start seeing results relatively quickly. Again, the obvious result being an increase in muscle mass, but they also often start to see reduction in fat levels and even possibly faster recovery times. So now let's get into how steroids work.
Now that I've shared with you the advantages steroids give, the consequences players get from getting caught, and the reasons why the players use them, I hope you better understand how PEDs have affected the MLB. We talked about how steroids can unfairly boost a player's strength and performance, giving them an edge over the other players. How the MLB punishes their players who use them, and finally why players take the risk to take steroids. If you remember how I started, I stated that the best player of all time will never make it to the Hall of Fame. That is because his legacy will always be tied to steroids and that era of baseball, and it is a reminder that cheating damages your reputation and the league. Thank you for listening.